if you want to do cold email, first say try to ask people if the problem you're trying to fix is worth solving in terms of would people be willing to pay for it? Because otherwise you're just sending emails and you don't know if the reason why it's not working is it because the cold email strategy I have is wrong, or is it because the offer I have is the wrong one? And because you don't know which one it is, then you just might be putting efforts without getting any results.
And we're back with another episode of the Sales Spotlight podcast, the show where you get to overcome your biggest cold email and outbound sales challenges by listening to the top experts in the space. I'm Jay, your host, and today we have another fun guest. Our guest has over 8 years of experience in sales and marketing. His early career started in marketing, working in every function you can think of: SEO, content marketing, paid ads, partnerships, you name it. But more recently, he's been killing it with outbound, whether that's helping clients build outbound systems or sharing great content, research driven, data driven content on LinkedIn, or curating one of the most extensive list of software tools out there on the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, say hello to Michel. Michel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Jai.
Absolute pleasure to have you on. Mish, before we dive into the fun stuff, for those who are watching and who don't know what you're doing, could you give us a quick background into your journey in the world of sales and what you're currently up to?
Yeah, exactly. So I started in sales and marketing by accident. I started a business which was a lottery in the UK. And
Okay.
once I was done developing the project, at some point I just figured I had to find a way to bring people on the platform. And so the first thing I did was looking at all the ways you could attract clients. So this got me started with marketing, Facebook ads, and all of these. And so what happened is that as I was promoting this platform, which didn't work at all, I learned a lot about advertising.
Hmm.
And so once it was time to decide to stop this first project, I just thought, you know what, let me start a Facebook ads agency because I just became so good at this. I don't know
Hmm.
if you remember, but back in the days, there were so many Facebook ads. It was
Yep.
the new thing. You would spend the bits on ads, and then you would get like a 4, 5, 6 times return on investment. And so I would do that. And the thing though is that in order to find clients for the Facebook ads agency,
Hmm.
I I started doing some emails because
Hmm.
the most challenging thing to do with Facebook ads was finding clients with your own Facebook ads. And so yeah, and so I started doing cold email, and cold email were actually even more effective than ads in terms of starting conversation. And so
Hmm.
I've been doing cold email in all of my roles since then, and now I'm going all in. So uh, I started the website 3 years and 8 months ago, but I started going all in with the agency 8 months ago, so in the beginning of January.
Very interesting. So you started an agency and basically came up with, had a problem to grow the agency, and out of it, another agency and a new business was formed. Very
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Uh,
Like you start a business, you fail the business, but as you fail this business, you learn a lot, and then you just decide uh, to use the way you were able to grow or find some success as
hmm.
a new business idea, and then it just goes on and on and on.
That's really testament to like a very good growth mindset. You either win or you learn, and if you have that, you can just keep progressing. So kudos to you, Mitch. So Mitch, this is like, since I know you have a ton of experience in marketing as well, and you've dived into paid ads as you mentioned, but also SEO and content creation and loads of other stuff. So for new businesses, why and when should they consider cold email as as a lead generation channel?
Yeah, I think the moment you want to consider a cold email is when you know who you want to target. Because the biggest challenge I see with cold email is that today it's not as easy as a few years ago where you could just send a bunch of messages and then you would know and get some feedbacks on am I reaching out to the right person? Is this offer resonating? And so one thing I like to say to people is try to make content first,
Hmm.
or if you want to do cold email first, say try to ask people if the problem you're trying to fix is worth solving in terms of would people be willing to pay for it?
Hmm.
Because otherwise you're just sending emails and you don't know if the reason why it's not working is it because the cold email strategy I have is wrong, or is it because the
Hmm.
offer I have is the wrong one? And because you don't
Hmm.
know which one it is, then you just might be putting efforts without getting
Hmm.
any results. And so I
Hmm.
think once you know, say you've
Hmm.
helped a few clients, 3 to 4 clients, and you start to see a
Hmm.
pattern and a problem worth solving, then you can go all in
Hmm.
because the great thing about cold email is that it lets you
Hmm.
pick exactly who you want to target. So you can really go with
Hmm.
this laser targeted approach of all those
Hmm.
businesses that look exactly like the businesses I've helped. I can go
Hmm.
and pitch them because I
Hmm.
know for a fact that once I start working with them, I'm gonna be able to help them.
Got it. That's a interesting answer, Mitch. So if I got you correctly, you're saying when you just start out as a business, you shouldn't directly jump into cold email because you won't know what exactly will work, what value prop to use. But instead, you should first serve a few clients and only then dive into cold email. Is that correct?
That's more or less what I said. So I guess it depends, right? If you've
Hmm.
been in sales for some time
Hmm.
and you know how to use cold email, then you
Hmm.
should use your leverage your skills to find clients.
Hmm.
Now, if you don't have any experience with it,
Hmm.
then I
Hmm.
think that it might not be the best idea just because of the fact that, you know, being a SDR, being a seller is a
Hmm.
full-time job for a lot of people, and
Hmm.
even these people are struggling to get results with it. And
Hmm.
so you, as a new business owner,
Yeah.
trying to push an offer that is unproven,
Hmm.
if now the way you found about going to find clients is
Hmm.
doing cold emails, then you might have some issues. And in this case, I think this is just my personal opinion that content has a lowest barrier to entry than cold
Hmm.
emails. And so
Hmm.
for this reason, you can start pushing some content
Hmm.
and see what people resonate with. And then
Hmm.
people will come to you
Hmm.
and find some ways you could help them leverage your skills. So, for example, if you've been doing marketing for e-commerce, but you don't know exactly what to offer in the suite of marketing services, some business might come to you and they might say, "Hey, actually, I have this project, and given the fact that you have this many years of marketing expertise, I thought you would be able to help me." And the
Hmm.
fact that a company comes to you with some specific help that they need or some specific project usually means that a lot of other companies have similar needs because like it's
Hmm.
pretty rare to just have like the only company in the world talking to you is
Hmm.
the only one that has this specific problem. And
Hmm.
so that's where you uncover some, I'd say, secrets.
Hmm.
Like you see that in some niche there are
Hmm.
some problems that a lot of companies are facing. And so now when you want to do cold email, then because you've seen that this was an actual problem and that you were able to help solve this problem, then
Hmm.
it's worth actually building an outbound engine
Hmm.
because now you know the offer is proven, which means
Hmm.
that if it doesn't work, then you have to improve the cold email approach. But at least you know what you have to improve when it comes to
Hmm.
the sales process.
Got it. I think that's really sound advice. So, when you're just starting out as a new business, unless you have prior sales experience, trying out a new channel without a validated offer is a very risky strategy. So, you're much better off trying to serve your own customers with content or other inbound methods, try to get results, and then showcase these to similar people who match the profile of your clients that you serve. That's a
Yeah.
great response, Mitch. Um, so, Mitch, I know you help a lot of businesses basically build their outbound engines, right? And I've heard you say on another podcast that a lot of your clients come to you basically with a list of prospects which they have no idea where they got from, where they sourced from, and basically hope for miracles. This is clearly the wrong approach to list building. And I know you're big on list building. So, what is the correct approach to building lists?
Yeah. So yeah, so that's true. That is always funny to me because I would be on a sales call and then someone would tell me, "Hey, yeah, so I have this list of 5,000 people. So do you think there is a way to reach out to them?" And then I'm asking them, "So how did you build this list?
Hmm.
What's the reason why you have this list? What's the thing that made you want to have these people specifically inside of your list?" And then most of the time people
Hmm.
can't answer. But the thing is that this is the most, I mean, in my opinion, the most important thing in the sales process, because whatever your offer is, if you are
Hmm.
pushing it in front of the wrong people, nobody will do anything about it. And so,
Hmm.
and so what you want to look at is you want to look at your past clients. This is also a reason why it's usually easier when you have a product offer, and look at all the reason and all the situations that we're going through so that you can
Hmm.
reverse engineer the way you build a list. So for
Hmm.
example, what you could see is that every time you had a new client, they had the exact same structure. So, for example, something you could say is that it was always a VP of sales, a head of sales, or some similar job title who came to you. You'll see that the problem they had is that they had been sending emails for some time, and for a few months they were sitting at a 20 to 30% open rates. And
Hmm.
because they were not able to find any problem, that's the moment where they came to you because you started talking about how to land in outside of the spam folder. And so
Hmm.
when you go and do this analysis of just really looking
Hmm.
one by one at the situation of your prospect when they came to you, then you will start seeing some
Hmm.
patterns. And that's where it gets very interesting because now you know, okay, VP of sales, head of sales, having some spam problems, and usually the
Hmm.
company is, I don't know, between 50 to 75 people, and they are in this
Hmm.
geography.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned prior, if you encounter a company or a person who's going through a problem, there is a high chance that a lot of other companies go through this problem. And so now when you
Hmm.
build this list, it's really a matter of how can I find some very similar people, which
Hmm.
means how can I find companies who are likely running outbound engine? So,
Hmm.
for example, you could look at LinkedIn and look at companies where you have at least one or two SDR in the team. How can
Hmm.
I guess that probably they have some spam issues? So you could look at
Hmm.
the records. For example, you can run their domain in the blacklist
Hmm.
tool, so you see if they have the proper configuration, and you can also check that their domain has the SPF, DKIM, DMARC configuration. If they don't
Hmm.
have this, then there is a probability that once again they don't know that much about deliverability. And so
Hmm.
because now you identify those three things, you can build a list with the assumption that a good proportion of the people you will reach out to will face the same issues to the people that came to you. And now you
Hmm.
both have the targeting that's right because you know they are facing a similar problem. And also you have proved that you have the solution because once these people came to you, you just built a different engine and you can just explain
Hmm.
it to them. Like that's the way we fixed
Hmm.
this. And so this is why
G-
to me, the strategy, like the list building is the most essential part of the whole
Hmm.
process.
I completely agree. I think if you build a strong list of prospects, that's basically half the battle won already because you've identified exactly who is looking for your solution. And then it's a question about timing it correctly. And as you mentioned, you need to look out for certain triggers. Like in the example you used, it's like putting their emails into the and checking like, do they have their technical configuration set up or not? And if they don't, this is like could be a sign of intent, right? So great response, Mitch. So let's say we have identified our our ideal ICP, our ideal customer that we want to reach out to. What is the workflow you follow to actually build this list? What are the tools you use to actually build out your lead list, Mitch?
Yeah, so there are a few tools we love at ColdIQ. So Apollo is a good tool. We always use it because I think it has a good balance between price and data quality. Now you cannot trust 100% the quality of the data, but it's always very easy to just go input some search criteria and then get a list of prospects. And
Hmm.
then the tool that we love to use is Clay, because
Hmm.
what Clay does for you is that as it aggregates 50 different data sources, you can
Hmm.
go and look for a lot of different triggers or
Hmm.
signals within your prospect list. And
Hmm.
so, for example, within Clay, you can look at all the companies mentioned in the news. You
Hmm.
can look at the technologies that people are using because they have a built-in integration. You can look at open jobs in a specific department, and you can
Hmm.
also have some LinkedIn criteria taken from LinkedIn, for example, the headcount growth of a company. And so, for this reason, we use Clay because we know that whatever the situation, or I'd
Hmm.
say in 90% of the situation the client has, we will be able to reverse engineer a way to find that the signal exists. And then inside of Clay, still, we can enrich the email addresses that we didn't find on Apollo,
Hmm.
because they have, I think, 5 to 6 email finding tools included within Clay. So they have
Hmm.
Datagma, Find Email, which is a great one. They have Hunter, they have Nimbler. And so
Hmm.
you can do what we call waterfall enrichment, where
Hmm.
you just first try to find email with the first solution. If the first solution doesn't find it, you go with the second, and then you go with the third and the fourth until you find a valid email address.
Hmm.
So those are the two main staples. But then
Hmm.
for some very specific case, we could go on LinkedIn. For example, if say you sell some content solutions, one thing you could look at is the person posting consistently, or have they been posting recently? So
Hmm.
on LinkedIn Sales Now, you have this criteria that you can check that says you can filter people based on the fact that they have posted the last 30 days. It's
Hmm.
usually good because if someone posted in the last 30 days, then that means that if you send them some LinkedIn outreach, they are more likely to be active on the platform. So you might have a higher reply rate. But
Hmm.
also the fact that they've posted means that they might be interested in content solutions, for example. And
Hmm.
if you sell
Hmm.
something content related, then that's something you could look at.
Interesting. And yeah, so as Mitch mentioned earlier, the first part is like identifying the right person to reach out to. And the second aspect of this process and making it successful is timing. And that's what these triggers, like identifying these triggers, is how you optimize the timing. And a tool like Clay really helps with this process. I love it too. Shout out to the good folk at Clay. They're doing an amazing job. Great. So, Mitch, you put out a ton of great content on LinkedIn as well. You recently put out a poll asking about the biggest cold email challenges that people face. And the overwhelming response was for personalizing emails at scale. And to be frank, that's something I voted for as well. So now you have the responses. What is the solution to this problem, Mitch? How do you personalize cold emails at scale?
Yeah, it was interesting because when I did the poll, I thought the answers would be different,
Hmm.
because the main problem I see people coming to me with is the spam folder. Like
Hmm.
just people saying, "Yeah, we are not able to have higher open rates." And so
Hmm.
it's funny because this makes me think that probably people are struggling more with personalizing emails at scale. But
Hmm.
that if you have the problem of spam, then
Hmm.
it's such a critical problem that you need some outside help.
Hmm.
While for personalizing at scale, then you think I can figure it out on my own, probably.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so us, the way we personalize at scale is inside of Clay once again. And I think there are two ways you can personalize. And I will not say there is a bad way and a good way, but I'd
Hmm.
say there is a way and then there is a better way. And so the
Hmm.
first way you can personalize is you can do some, and that's what most AI icebreakers and AI personalization tools do, is you
Hmm.
can do some generic personalization that's based on a LinkedIn profile, a summary, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So usually what those tools will do is that they will read your profile and then they will give you some generic compliment which has nothing to do with the
Hmm.
message. And
Hmm.
so, like they would be like, "Hey, Jay, I saw you were a champion of
Hmm.
hockey when you were at school," something like this. And then it's like, yeah, it has nothing to do with the message. And
Hmm.
people like to shit on this, saying,
Hmm.
"Hey, this has nothing to do, it's irrelevant, you shouldn't even include this."
Hmm.
But even this generic kind of personalization, we have
Hmm.
seen makes an increase in
Hmm.
reply rate. So I'd
Hmm.
say if you're not able to find some relevant personalization, you can
Hmm.
still do it,
Hmm.
because because you have some messages, from sales influencers just criticizing the
Hmm.
way outreach is done.
Hmm.
But you just have to think about the fact that sales people have a
Hmm.
different way to think about sales. So
Hmm.
if you sell to a sales audience, then they might
Hmm.
see through it straight away. But
Hmm.
some other audience are not that educated about the way personalization works. So you can still go and use these personalization gimmicks. And in
Hmm.
this case, you can use some of these tools. I think QuickLine is a tool that does that. SmartWriter does that. Lean.ai used to do that. I'm not sure if they do it. And then within Clay, you can make a ChatGPT prompt where you basically say, "Hey, read the summary of this person, and then complete this sentence that says, I saw from your LinkedIn profile that you specialize in," and then like it will complete it for you. So this
Hmm.
is, I would say, the first way, which is not the
Hmm.
best way, but still better than nothing.
Hmm.
Now, the better way is to go and personalize based on the trigger that you've identified. So in our
Hmm.
case, we talked about spam. Now, another trigger that lots of salespeople like to use is the job openings trigger. And for
Hmm.
example, inside of Clay, what you can do is you can upload your list of website targets, and you can look for open jobs related to the solution you are selling. So if you are selling a marketing SaaS, then maybe you can take a look at all those companies hiring for marketing profiles, because sometimes it means that the company is looking to invest and ramp up their marketing efforts. And in this case, then your SaaS solution might come handy. And in this
Hmm.
case, with Clay, what you have is you have the description for each of these open roles. And now what you can do is you can once again build a custom ChatGPT prompt where you will ask ChatGPT to read the whole job description about, say, like, let's say it's a content marketer open role. So you
Hmm.
ask ChatGPT to read it, and you can also ask it to tie in into your solution, which
Hmm.
means that now, in addition to just personalizing the message, it will personalize the message in a way that will showcase to the company that what they are currently doing, which is hiring a content marketing profile, is complementary to the solution you have, because you might have a solution that helps content team, I don't know, let's say it's for Taplio, content team schedule post. And so
Hmm.
in this case, it's very relevant. And so
Hmm.
this I would say is the best way to personalize, because you
Hmm.
both have personalization that shows or that pretends that you've read the job
Hmm.
description, and it
Hmm.
ties into your value proposition. So you have
Hmm.
both relevance and personalization, and that
Hmm.
has an even higher impact than just plain personalization.
Hmm. I think you phrased that well, Mitch. There's a way to do it, and then there's a better way. And I completely agree. Ideally, you want your personalization to be addressing the pain point, right? But if there isn't a way to do it effectively, it's still better to have some sort of personalization than nothing at all. So yeah, agree with you there. And yeah, there are. I mean, you will find people hating on everything. This is the game we play,
Yeah,
right? And so it's part and parcel of things. um,
yeah,
so Mitch,
exactly.
another, I know that you are a big email copywriting nerd. I mean that in the nicest way possible. You're always breaking down and analyzing frameworks, and that's besides crafting copy for all the businesses that you serve. So what are some of the most effective frameworks that have worked well for you and your clients, Mitch?
Yeah. So my favorite one, and this is a, say, longer term approach, is to leverage content inside of the outreach.
Hmm.
So, for example, there are some very short frameworks. So, what I did is I just went and I have a huge file, I'd say
Hmm.
swipe file, where
Hmm.
every time I see some good copy, I just add it and add it and add it. And then recently I made this post where I just took my favorite frameworks and I put it inside of a carousel.
Hmm.
And one that I use a lot is saying to people that we've helped similar companies,
Hmm.
and then instead of pitching them for a call straight away, I tell them
Hmm.
that we actually wrote a guide that lays out the step that we went through. And I ask them if it's okay to share the guide. So the reason why I'm
Hmm.
asking if it's okay to share the guide is because I try to avoid links for deliverability
Hmm.
reasons. But so it will
Hmm.
read like, hey, we helped company X, Y, and Z book X number of meetings using these strategies because
Hmm.
they're similar to you. We thought it could be interesting. And then we say, we actually wrote a guide that lays it out step by step. Can I send it to
Hmm.
you? And so this usually has a huge reply rate because it's very low friction, right? Like most
Hmm.
people are like, yeah, send it to me. And the good thing
Hmm.
about it is that it doesn't even decrease your meeting booked rate because the people
Hmm.
who find it interesting, either like the approach of not going direct or the people who have this problem, the problem that you mentioned, we say, okay,
Hmm.
it's okay, just book a meeting straight away with me. And then what
Hmm.
we do after that is once we have these people and we send them the guide, we enter them into a subsequence, send them the guide, and then a few days later we follow up about what they thought about the guide. And a few days later we ask them if they want to book a meeting if they didn't have the time to go through the guides. And so this is
Hmm.
interesting because thanks to this approach, we're able to see a lot more people being interested. And because
Hmm.
we have an approach that doesn't just involve cold email, we can also do
Hmm.
some additional steps. So, for example,
Hmm.
I know that every person who asked and that was interested in getting my cold email guide on how we generated opportunities for similar companies to them, I know that in a way or another, they want to build an outbound system or they're not very
Hmm.
happy with their own outbound system. And so, what I
Hmm.
will do then is I will add these guys on LinkedIn because then even if I don't pitch them on LinkedIn, they will be
Hmm.
exposed to my content. And something we've
Hmm.
seen is that as people are exposed constantly to your content, then it
Hmm.
increases trust. So these people,
Hmm.
you will stay top of mind for them. But
Yeah.
then at some point, once the problem hit a critical point, they will
Hmm.
come back to you and ask them if you can help them.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
think that's actually that's a great point, because I think a lot of times the prospects themselves are in the process of discovering more about their pain and how they can solve it. So during this process they may not be ready to commit to a solution yet, but if you share content which can help them look at their pain in a different way and maybe even give them a solution for them, and basically show them this is how you would go about it, they basically go through it, see that it might be challenging for them to implement given their resources, and that's a great way, a powerful way to make your cold email stronger. So that's really cool. And as well as multi-channel, I think that is the future, right? You can't just be on one channel, be heavily dependent on one channel. You can have a primary channel where you're using, but you need to make little investments across the board.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about that. The fact that you just give everything, you show them how it's done, and
Hmm.
then they will want to pay you for the implementation. Because usually a lot of people are scared to give out their secrets.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the person who has the budget to pay you, they
Hmm.
usually don't have the time
Hmm.
to build the system on their own because they have a
Absolutely.
business, they have some other priorities. So it's like showcasing that you can help them means that then they will go and pay
Hmm.
you for the information. And the other consideration you should have is most people ask for a meeting straight away, but
Hmm.
if you are looking at high level individuals, target companies, and so on, most people don't have the time. Like even
Hmm.
us, we're a small company, but I receive so many messages. Like you have to
Hmm.
follow up with me a few times because I get it. I want to reply to you, but then it's like I get a lot more messages, but I'm still
Hmm.
very small, right? So I
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
imagine, say, even the founder, CEO of a company with 50 people, then it must
Hmm.
be 100, 200 times more than I get. And so the
Hmm.
more you go up and the more it is the more you have to compete against a sea of other messages. So
Hmm.
this is why I think it's very important to make it as low friction as possible because you won't get away with just having a very generic message and then asking a 60-minute meeting straight away.
Absolutely. Yeah, even you look at an average person doing any job in marketing or sales, their schedules are packed. They don't have the time. So as you go higher up the food chain, if you're a head of sales or the founder of a business, obviously you have a lot more on your plate and you have less time to dedicate to meetings which you don't know exactly about. So you have to drive home and hit that, like clearly highlight that pain point and make it strong enough where a meeting is just like a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So, Mitch, another thing, you love tools. I mean, you have created one of the most extensive lists of sales tools out there. And one of your recent editions, I think in the last few months, a couple of months, you've been building a list of AI tools as well. And I know you use plenty of them yourself. So, what are some of your favorite AI tools that you use for sales?
Yeah. So I can think of three tools straight away. So the first one is Clay. So I mention it all the time just because this just changed our whole workflow. So I'm just 10 times quicker when I use the tool. And it's even more effective because I can do the same things I used to do 10 times quicker, but with no
Hmm.
mistakes and with more personalization. And the reason why I love it so much is because every time I have an idea for a campaign, for a way to personalize and reach out to people, I know there is a way inside of the tool to reverse engineer it and then do it. Just
Hmm.
because they aggregate with so many data sources that is just there is the data you need, and then inside of it you can just set the conditions and build any kind of workflow you want. And once you build the workflow, so sometimes those workflows take some time to build, then you can add some contacts, and those contacts will be automatically entered into the workflow and go through all these steps, which means that you don't have to repeat this workflow. So it's
Hmm.
very, very efficient.
Hmm.
Now, the second one I love is a French tool called Ubiqui. So
Hmm.
it's an AI video personalization tool, and I've tested a few tools before before stopping at this solution, because the issue with most AI video tools is that they don't look really credible. So
Hmm.
it sounds robotic, and even the
Hmm.
personalization is limited. Most of
Hmm.
these tools, they will let you personalize the first name. So you say, "Hey Jay," and then for the next person, it will be, "Hey Mitch,"
Hmm.
and then they will change the background so that you
Hmm.
see your LinkedIn profile in the background, and then for me, it will be mine. So
Hmm.
that is already interesting in a way,
Hmm.
but typically they pushed it one step further, where what they do is that you can personalize across lots of different variables. So you can personalize the name, the company name, you can personalize where you fund people, and then any other sentences you want to personalize, you can do it. And so yeah, and so
Hmm.
we've used it. We want to use it even more. Like the only thing is that we have to create these videos, and so even though this lets you build thousands of videos by just recording yourself once, you're still
Hmm.
a bit lazy to do it sometimes, but it's
Hmm.
very, very effective. And we've talked we talked a lot to the head of sales there at Ubiqui, and he explains to us that with his tool, he usually books between 18 to 25 meetings per week. And the reason
Wow.
why he doesn't book more is because he doesn't want to sit through more of these meetings. So
Hmm.
it's very, very effective. And even us, we've used this, and we actually use this on AI agencies.
Okay.
And so AI engineers were receiving our AI generated videos, and they couldn't tell that it was video. So
Wow.
it's still not 100% perfect. If
Okay.
you know, you might guess that it is an AI video, but my take on the whole AI movement is that the technology is just improving so fast that you might want to learn how to use these tools now,
Hmm.
because when they will be ready, we will have a huge advantage over the competition. And then the last one I like, and this is one I started using very recently, is called Human Linker. So what they
Okay.
do is they have an extensive suite of solutions where they have AI icebreakers, they also have intent signals. But what I find very interesting about this tool, and this is more for one-on-one outreach, so if you go for big accounts and you absolutely want to get them, is they have a DISC personality analysis tool. So like this is the personality analysis. I don't know if you know about this framework. I wasn't
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
familiar with it, but what the Accra, the company that's called MyProfilia, and this was an AI research company that just look at, say, what someone writes and the kind of actions they take online, and they would be able to tell what kind of personality this person is, like what's the dominance of the personality, and based on that they would advise you on how you should approach them. Some
Hmm.
people have a dominant personality, so
Hmm.
they like to not add like when they're running the call. And so for these kind of folks, then you might want to talk a bit less, for example. And like
Hmm.
some people have another personality type. And so it's
Hmm.
great because when you reach out to people and when you use their icebreaker, then the personalization is not only done on the content that you have on the LinkedIn profile, but also done based on the tone that you should use when you address them. And
Hmm.
the other place where it's very interesting is before you prepare a meeting. So if,
Hmm.
for example, you wanted to have a meeting uh, and you want to make sure that you know the person you're talking to before this meeting, you would just go and see where they were mentioned in the news, when they started their first company, what they're writing about online, are they using emojis or are they not using emojis? And then I should
Hmm.
can I guess that they have a personality that's I don't know, a bit in a specific way, and based
Hmm.
on that, you should address them. But then they do this work for you, and it's very
Wow.
interesting because they think about some insights where you wouldn't even think about that. For
Yeah.
example, one thing they would look at that I found interesting is they will look at if a person has launched a company straight after finishing their studies,
Hmm.
because people who do that, they tend to have a specific type of personality, and they
Okay.
just have a huge data set of people they analyze, and then so they come up with some different conclusions. So those three, and I'm pretty sure I use some other ones because,
Hmm.
for example, when you think about sales engagement platform, they're already using AI when it comes to answer categorization. So is someone interested or not? They are also using AI for email warm up. And yeah, I'd say like this is for the most part, that's
Hmm.
how they're using AI. And so
Hmm.
now what we see is that a lot of sales engagement platforms that
Hmm.
wouldn't be using AI that much are integrating AI in some ways. So it looks
Hmm.
like all those tools are bound to become AI tools.
Hmm.
At some point,
Hmm.
this list will have to go back to just becoming a sales tools and not a
Yeah.
AI sales tools list.
That's a great point. It's now maybe we're still like in the earlier stages of AI, like taking over, you could say, and eventually they will all have AI functionality, but they will just become regular sales tools. And yeah,
Yeah.
the point of AI, at least the way I see it, is to help make your life easier. It can't do all the work for you. I think it's to automate the repetitive tasks, the ones which don't need like creative effort or thinking, which can save you time and help you focus on other stuff, like actually taking those meetings and converting the calls that you get on and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I see is a lot of companies are trying to leverage AI as a way to replace salespeople. So that's
Hmm.
the way they present their solutions. And I think that today the solution is not ready. I mean, the
Hmm.
technology is not ready for that, or I haven't seen that done correctly or effectively. But if you use it as an assistant, just like to
Hmm.
supercharge whatever workflow you can think of, then that's where it
Hmm.
becomes very effective. And so I think that most of the people who don't like AI or like are
Hmm.
I don't know, disappointed with AI
Hmm.
used to see it as a way to replace themselves. And so if you have these kind of expectations, then you are bound to be disappointed by the technology. Now, if you have
Hmm.
some other expectations, like you mentioned, all those
Hmm.
repetitive tasks I don't want to do, or like some
Hmm.
smaller admin tasks like
Hmm.
productivity related and so on, then in this
Yeah.
case, you can get a huge edge over the competition by leveraging the tools.
Agreed. I think we've reached the point where there's just no, you have to embrace it or you will die eventually. I think that's the reality of the situation with AI. And the sooner you get on board and learn how to make the most of it rather than be wary of it, or just like just say that it's not for you, you're probably in trouble. So it's definitely something to consider. Try out different tools and see how it can enhance your workflow, how it can make your life easier, not completely replace everything that you're doing. Great, Mitch. This has been amazing conversation. Before I let you go, we want to do a quick segment where I'm going to hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions, and you respond with the first thing that pops into your head. This segment is called "Hey Name Quick Question." Mitch, you ready?
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Favorite subject line.
Are you done ignoring me? No, this is a joke. It's just one that I saw. I'd say favorite subject line. Guide sharing first name. Guide sharing first name.
Hmm. Emojis in email copy, yay or nay?
Usually nay.
Okay. One cold email tactic that really should stop.
Long emails. Long emails starting with hi, I am person from company.
Hmm. One cold email tactic that should be used more.
Providing value. So lead lists, guides, whatever useful assets to the clients.
Three tools that you have to use in your sales workflow.
Apollo, Datagma, Clay,
Four sales experts that you have to follow on LinkedIn.
Eric Nowoslowski, Jesse Wallet, Max Mitcham, and Alex Vaca.
Last one for you, Mitch. One cold email hot take that you hold that most people would disagree with.
Volume works.
There we have it. Mitch, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. We spoke about ICPs, building lists, AI, went through your entire workflow. That was such a fun conversation. So many great nuggets in there. Thank you for taking the time to join me from Barcelona. For people who want to learn more about you and what you do, where can they find you and follow you, Mitch?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, Michel Lieben. I try to post every day of the week, so they should see some of my content. Or they can also go on coldiq.com, which is our agency website. And that's also where we share a lot of resources, especially sales tools that you can use and the sales tools we love the most. And we are planning to share even more. So just go and check out the website, guys.
Absolutely. Mitch not only puts out content regularly, but as I said, most of his content is backed by data, a lot of fun examples in there, like in this conversation. So he's definitely worth a follow if you want to learn a thing or two about sales, sales tools, outbound as a whole. Definitely hit him up there. Mitch, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon, mate.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. It was amazing. See you soon. Talk
To
soon.
Talk soon. Thank you, everybody. That's been another episode of the Sales Spotlight podcast. We'll be back with another one real soon. Until then, peace.